When I applied to universities in the UK last year, I had to write my first ever personal statement in English. That was quite a challenge because, especially as an international student, you don't really know what they expect from a personal statement. So this was quite challenging, and I realized that there are a few traps you can fall into if you're not aware of them. So let's check them out together. Hi guys, I'm Juva. This video is all about how not to make mistakes when writing your personal statement, but what are the mistakes you can make? Let's have a look at them. Mistake number 1, the CV. A personal statement is not a CV. When writing your personal statement, you may want to talk about your experience, what you did, what you studied, which job you had, but you only want to talk about that if it is in some way linked to your subject, because when talking about your experience, this is only relevant if you can establish a link from your experience to your subject. And this means simply chronically listing your experience doesn't help you, because it does not help you to make your point why you should study this subject. And this leads us to the next point, mistake number 2, no structure. In your personal statement, you want to convince the reader why you should get this place to study this subject. And this means you have to persuade the reader. Think of a personal statement as an essay. In an essay, you write an introduction, several paragraphs, and a conclusion. And your personal statement is essentially the same thing. Every paragraph you write is an argument, and all boils down to that one conclusion. And the conclusion is why you should study this subject. So you should make sure you have an adequate structure to support your argument. Your main point is definitely why you want to study this subject or why you should study this subject. So make sure you write an introduction, make sure that every paragraph you write supports in some way your main point, why you should get this place. And after writing your introduction and your body, you write a conclusion. In the conclusion, you tie all the strings together. That means in your former paragraphs, you talked about why you are particularly interested in the subject, which skills you have, and so on. And in the conclusion, you repeat that information in 1 or 2 short sentences to make your point why you should get this place. Mistake number 3, accumulating quotes. Guys, this is really tempting. In your personal statement, you may want to talk about the book you read or an article, because this is related to your subject and you find that really interesting. And then it can be quite tempting to quote somebody, because you think quotes make you sound intelligent and of course you want to impress the reader. However, I'd recommend using quotes only in a certain way. Don't get me wrong, I don't say that you shouldn't use quotes. However, if you use them, make sure that you only use them as a means to support your point. For example, maybe you think there is a controversial issue regarding a book you read or an article. That's great, that's amazing, because if you have an issue that you've really thought about and that you want to discuss, this demonstrates your interest in the subject, and that's something good. And of course, then you can use quotes to support your argument. However, I would strongly recommend not only using quotes and let them stand for themselves, just to fill up space or because it sounds good. I would use quotes only as a means to support your point. Mistake number 4, recommended books. If you want to talk about the book in your personal statement, make sure it's something that you are particularly interested in. And of course, that speaks for itself that it is related to your subject. When looking for books regarding your subject in the internet, you will find many books that are recommended to mention in a personal statement because they are related to your subject. And don't get me wrong, you can use use them and mention them in your personal statement. However, I'd recommend not only reading and mentioning them because they are recommended to you. For example, you want to study a specific subject and you find 2 or 3 books that are recommended on the internet to mention your personal statement, but you realize you are really not so interested in that. In this case, think about why you are passionate about your subject. What area of your subject are you most interested in? And after thinking about that, have a look at books or articles or academic papers that cover this area of your subject. What I want to say is, I think it doesn't make any sense only using a book because it is recommended somewhere on the net. I think it's very important that you choose something that you are particularly interested in. And that shouldn't be so hard because you are interested in your subject and you know why you are passionate about it. So think about that and have a look at stuff that covers your interest. And by the way, this also benefits you and your personal statement in a certain way, because if you're interested in that, you have fun reading it and you have fun discussing it. And that's a big part what your personal statement should be about. Your personal statement should be about discussing things regarding your subject, because like that you can show why you are passionate about your subject. And that's why it's really worth thinking about what you're particularly interested in and then choosing a book or an article or whatever depending on this interest. Mistake number 5. Repeating words. This is a particular challenge for international students. When I was writing my personal statement, at some point I realized that I was constantly repeating the same words. I always wrote things like I think, I'm interested in, and repeated them several times. And when rereading my personal statement, I realized that this was really boring and it also really annoyed me. So I started to think how I can make my language more variable, and I'd really recommend you guys doing that, because simply always repeating the same words may give the reader the impression that you didn't really think about your writing style and how to express things. I know this is hard, especially if English is not your first language, but I can really recommend taking the time and constantly editing your personal statement and going over these expressions again and again to make sure that you make your language more variable. Because in the end, it's really totally worth it. When you will read your personal statement, in the end, you will be really happy about it. You will be proud because although English is not your first language, you've managed to express your ideas in a coherent and concise way. And this is something really great. So guys, it's really worth the effort. Put some time into that, edit your personal statement, and have a look at how you can make your language more variable. That's it. These are the 5 mistakes you can make when writing a personal statement. I hope you guys liked the video. If you now think, oh my god, Juva, there are so many more mistakes you can make when writing a personal statement, I'd love to hear about your ideas. Put them down in the comments below. And I wish you really fun writing your personal statement. It can be hard, but it's also an amazing experience. So I wish you a great time and I really hope to see you next time. Bye!